And we are back. This is episode 3. A few days late, and we apologize by that. It's my fault. I didn't do a great job at communicating when and what time we were streaming or recording. So that is all on me. Please be gentle with the punishments. Um, with me today, I have Brad
Hello.
and returning co-host Skull.
Hello.
Um, you always said something.
I did. I said hello.
Oh, you had a catchphrase too, but I guess people can wait for that.
That's at the end.
At the end. Okay. Okay. So episode 3. The first thing we would like to do is kind of give you guys a few minutes to get to know Skull, and then we got some ideas and some thoughts about the Warhammer 40k's because that seems to be a big hot topic discussion right now. So, Skull, um, tell us your dark secrets.
My dark secrets. Okay, so I'll just start off by saying I'm not really great about talking about myself, but I've basically spent my whole life around games. For me, that didn't really start with video games. It started unplugged. Probably the same with most of you. Okay.
Sorry, was that a question?
That was a question.
Can you restate the question because I didn't get a question from you.
I didn't really start out with video games. I started out unplugged. I assume that's the same with both of you.
Oh no, I started off with video games. No, I was a bit different.
I would say that I always played video games as a kid. I remember sitting down and playing Nintendo and Super Nintendo, but they weren't a part of my identity the way that they became part of my identity when I started playing the unplugged games a lot. So I would say yes and kind of no.
Okay. So kind of a quick description of who I am in regards to this podcast. Uh, like most, I'm a nerd, I'm a gamer, I'm a collector, I'm a YouTuber, I'm a husband, and a father. I grew up playing Monopoly, Life, Clue, Connect 4, learned a ton of card games growing up. I actually own, I think, 21 different playing card decks, just with different themes. Um, Even now, I collect a lot of the. I collect more than I get to play unplugged games. So I have like Kingdom Death Monster, Gotham City Chronicles, Marvel Legendary, Arkham Horror Living Card Game, and then we own like I don't know 35 different Uno games. Um, I th- I honestly I think that unplugged is kind of more important nowadays than video games, even though I spend a lot more time with video games, just because screens are everywhere. For my household, we have a weekly game night, so we can actually spend time together, engaging away from our screens, just because we spend so much time with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, go ahead.
You also pretty heavily you've gotten pretty heavy into vintage games too.
Uh, are you talking about for unplugged or?
For see, that's the funny thing is in my head I almost considered like vintage NES and N64 and PS1 PS2, those kind of eras of games. I know they're not unplugged, but by comparison to modern digital gaming they feel unplugged, right? Like if you want to play Super Mario with somebody you got to sit down together with a controller in each hand in the same room, kind of playing. I know you can do it on Twitch or not Twitch, the Switch and stuff like that. But I'm talking about with the classic consoles and everything. I know they're not unplugged because by definition they're on TVs and use electricity, but they kind of feel unplugged to me. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I mean, I do have. I agree with it on some points. So when it comes to video games, my first experience with video games were actually on Apple IIe computers. So back when the original Prince of Persia, Oregon Trail, Super Munchers, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego was kind of my intro into video games. But when it comes down to like my heart into video games, I do like NES. I think that I gear more towards like the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. But yeah, I can kind of see the correlation. As a collector, and I'm a small time collector. I have a little over 400 games, um, but I can see that correlation in regards to like being able to sit down with something that's considered more vintage in the style, less graphics.
Hmm.
There wasn't always a situation where you just continue from where you left off. Once you ran out of lives, you had to start the whole thing over. Just like any kind of board game, you have to tear that down. A lot of times you can't just leave it out on the table to resume it at a different point.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Kind of, I don't know what it is. Well, I think I do. It's the personable nature of the old digital gaming that makes it kind of feel unplugged by modern standards. But moving on, that's a big part of you, the collector, the vintage collector for digital games. But like you said, you've also been doing unplugged gaming for about as long as you can remember. What was like the first game that really got you into the unplugged gaming?
So the weird part is the first board game that I remember, I don't even remember the name of it. Out in a place near Logan, Ohio, there's a place called Old Man's Cave, and they have this little like small shop stop. And there was a game that was actually about um, nature. So the biggest card I can remember is Death and Decay. It was basically working through the food chains, and you would play different cards to kind of in a game of war. Uh, each card would defeat a different card, and you were trying to collect as many cards as you could. Um, Honestly, I remember trying to look for it again at some point. It's actually a really hard find. Outside of that, weirdly enough, not the biggest Star Wars fan, but I grew up playing a lot of the Star Wars Monopoly.
Is that just because it was the monopoly you had, or is there something you liked about it better than the other ones?
My dad is a huge Star Wars fan, so he had Star Wars Monopoly, and so that was the Monopoly that we played. I definitely grew up playing a lot of Clue as well um, with him, and for a good chunk of my early life, I played a lot of chess.
Hmm. Okay. And what are you doing in the unplugged world now?
Uh, well, outside of it comes down to a lot of times smaller party games. Like I said, my household does a weekly game night, so we play a lot of. I have an 18-year-old and a 12-year-old now. So we're kind of getting a little bit higher in the age range. We end up playing a lot of Uno for sure. But we play games like Exploding Kittens, Cards Against Humanity, the Family Edition, um, and just generally smaller style games in our household. I on occasion take the chance to look at my Marvel Crisis Protocol miniatures, and then sadly put them back in the closet because I don't have a chance to really play them.
Yeah, we've been discussing getting back into that. We actually have a few other people now in our little game group that are interested in them as well. So may have to drag you down here sometime to play it.
Yeah, definitely need to get back into making the trips.
Hmm.
Outside of that, as far as also unplugged games, I play I DM two TTRPGs and play in one. Um, One of my groups plays strict. Two of my groups I played D&D, and I DM D&D for one of each group. And then my third group recently been going through different TTRPGs and different systems, trying things out, which of course you're part of that.
Yeah, I'm in a lot of group. I'm getting two different groups now that both want to try different systems every few weeks, right, Brad?
Oh yeah, I mean not every few weeks, but whenever my ADHD kicks in and I want to change something up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you the same questions I asked Brad in our previous episode, and that first question is, if you had to, like, if you snapped your fingers and all video games except for one video game just poofed, and that's the only game that exists. No one else can play any other video games other than that, including you. They all poofed and gone. It's not a matter of the game being forever stale. It can be updated and stuff like that, but it's the only game that will forever exist. What game would that be?
It's such a difficult question because I have two favorite series of games. So my fight here comes. I've always been into RPG games. In this case, a JRPG. My favorite series of all time would be the Suikoden series.
Okay.
But the game that I probably play more is that I own almost the entire line of Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors, and Warriors Orochi for the Musou Warrior games.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think that collection comes up to almost 20 of my games. So it's kind of like an endless, and they still make games for that, so it's almost like an endless game series in itself. Even if it's one of those games where you just kind of zone out as you're playing a hack and slash game.
Yeah, I always kind of like the Dynasty Warrior games, but kind of wish that they had a little bit more crunch in them. And this is what I thought of when you said like the games you can kind of zone out on. I know you've always been a huge Dynasty Warrior fan, but for me, it just got to a point where I was doing the same thing too much, and I'd like to see a little bit more crunch in it.
Well, I don't know if you've ever looked into Dynasty Warriors 9, where like it was a continuous ongoing map.
What was it?
Yeah, like they fully expanded it, so it's not like you load into one map for one scenario, go through that scenario, you come back out, check your items, go back into another scenario. It was a continuous ongoing story. Outside of switching to a different character to run through what their story was, like you could fully explore the map and find things.
See, that's kind of why I've wanted to give Mountain Blade a try, because I hear good things about that as far as like the commanding and stuff like that.
Mountain Blade is very good.
Okay. The next question is basically the same exact world. Same exact thing happens. Everything has to die except for one. Let's go with miniature game.
I'm gonna have to stick true to the one miniature game that I wish I could play more often, which would be Marvel Crisis Protocol.
And what attracts you to that game so much?
I'm a big comic book guy. I wish that they would. The only thing I wish that they do with that game is make it a Marvel versus DC game, to have the best of both worlds. But I grew up with comics as much as I did with video games or unplugged gaming. So I'm always drawn to that. If I couldn't pick Marvel Crisis Protocol, the weird choice would be just because of the aesthetic of it was Wild West Exodus.
You know, a new company took ownership of that IP, right?
You've mentioned it before, but I haven't really had a chance to look into it.
It's now part of the dystopian age from War Cradle. Me and Brad play Dystopian Wars, and we try to play Armored Clash. And so now that whole Wallace Exodus is part of like a World War One alternate timeline thing. It's the same models and everything, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's in the same universe now.
I mean, as long as I know that they do, but as long as they have Warrior Nation, I'll be fine.
Yep. Then
They
unfortunately,
just do.
yeah, Warrior Nation unfortunately doesn't have a presence like in the naval level game that I'm aware of, or the army scale game, but in the actual miniature game, the 32 millimeter miniature game, they do.
I could see them being a part of the Union or something.
Yeah, they
Maybe
have
like
a unit in
mercenary
there.
group.
Well, it's like
Maybe an armored clash.
like the Imperium has like the Nords, the Vikings and stuff. Like they have a ship called the Ragnarok, and the Prussians, the Imperium faction, get access to that. So the last one I'll ask is same world, and this is the question that killed Brad. Same world, but all TTRPGs die except for one.
Oh. Ooh. So this would definitely be the most difficult question because a lot of the different systems have their pros and cons. Even if you consider saying that Dungeons and Dragons is considered one of the biggest mainstays of TTRPGs. It has its pros and cons, and that's if you're asking, if you ask certain people, because it depends if it's 5th edition or 3.5 edition. But honestly, one of the ones that I enjoyed the most of what we've played recently, even if it's not other people's favorites, would be Outgunned by Three Little Mice or Two Little Mice. Just I like the story building aspect of it, and it's got a quick pace to go through people's setup, so that in a lot of cases people don't have to think as much, and that's just from the DM aspect. If I was gonna play a game, that would be the Marvel Multiverse role playing game. But if I'm gonna DM a game, it would probably be Outgunned. Would be the one that I'd leave running.
And the multiverse one is the one we played last time, right?
Yes, the Marvel Multiverse role playing game was definitely the one we played last time. I think the next thing that we're supposed to be playing, if I can get the time to actually read it, is Avatar Legends.
I have heard mixed things about that system.
Well, it's not a combat game. That's so far what I've really learned from it.
It is not.
From my experience, CTRPGs that don't have any combat in them are kind of meh for me.
No, it
Well-
has combat. It's just not meant to be a combat game. It's supposed to be a storytelling game.
We can do it, but basically, long story short, there's combat. It's just not like Outgunned or Marvel Multiverse RPG.
Well, we're gonna have to
Yeah,
put
you-
aside an episode so you guys can fanboy over your different RPG segments and stuff, because it sounds like something we could talk about for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I said for mine was Pathfinder first edition.
And mine was
I can
Dungeons and
see arguments
Dragons
for it.
second edition.
Did you just say Thaco?
Yes. Thaco
All right.
Thaco is kind of like the initiative system for Warhammer 40k. Everyone says that it was harder than it actually was.
No, all I'm saying is seek therapy.
Yeah.
Listen, I just loved having 16 different core books that I could build my fighter for. I loved all the options, just an endless amount of different things to try and customizations and stuff. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, get back in the straitjacket.
Thaco should be the name of a clown, not a system. Okay.
All I can say is for 4 years, I played nothing but the class, but I had 7 different characters. Because I played different specialty priests because they all were like their own classes. It was awesome. I loved it. And psionic,
we have
psionic
like a-
characters were great.
Do we have an available cricket noise?
No soundboard
There's
yet.
one in Discord.
Okay, so anything else? Any questions for him, Brad?
Nope, I can't think of any.
Okay. Anything else you want to add, Skull, before we move on?
No, I don't like talking about myself. So
That's fair. Okay, so we're gonna kind of. I know we said we weren't gonna have any segments, but not really a segment. This is kind of what the core of the episode is going to be about. We're gonna talk about some 40k's. Me and Brad, relative for the sake of the podcast, we'll say recently, just played our latest game of Warhammer 40k. And there is, I mean, I don't think it's going to be the last game of the edition, right, Brad?
No, we should be able to get one or two more in before.
Yep. The rumors,
Well,
right
maybe
now
one.
is that the new edition comes out June 20th. So what do we feel about that date?
It's a date.
It's a date. Thank you. Hard-hitting
Well-
news from Brad. It's a date.
what was the date?
It's
again?
a Saturday. There we go. How about that?
June 20th is the alleged day that the 11th edition will be dropped.
So, personally, I think it's probably a pretty good date, but they could have just made it July. Because if you think about it, if they make it July and say July 20th is when 11th edition comes out, and then we have the biggest convention for anything, almost everything unplugged gaming.
Definitely
Oh,
one of
yeah.
the biggest well-known ones, like the
Yeah, so we have Gen Con like the week right after the release of 11th. I think that would make more sense. It would not be July 20th. It would be like July 25th if they wanted to do it in July. But I think it makes sense as well to do it in June as well because they don't really care about Gen Con when it comes to big releases.
Games Workshop likes to think it's in a league of its own that doesn't need to worry about the prattlings of mere mortals and just do what it wants to do when it wants to do it. What about you, Skull? Any thoughts on the release date?
It is World Refugee Day. Now this is just as far as we're again it's not officially confirmed, right?
No, it's not been officially confirmed.
So it's a speculation that this is the launch box Armageddon, right?
Yep. Orcs versus
so-
Space Marines, because it's always something Space Marines.
Well, Blood Angels specifically in this case, right?
Well, okay, so technically yes, but really no, because as far as I can tell, none of the models will have any form of actual plastic 3D iconography that identify them as Blood Angels.
Yeah, I didn't see any blood drops on any of them.
They figured that out after, I think it was 6th edition. They released it for the Dark Angels, and there was a bunch of Dark Angel iconography, and everyone just scraped them off or hated it. So I think GW learned its lessons that when you release Space Marine stuff for launch boxes, you don't put any kind of chapter specific on it at all.
But they're gonna put Blood Angels on the box, aren't they?
Yes, it's going to be a red Space Marine with teardrops painted on their shoulder pads. So like I said, you're right. You're technically right, which is the best kind of right.
I mean,
And they're also
I get
going to
away
give you a
with a
decal sheet for the Blood Angels.
Is it going to have a decal sheet?
I don't. They usually do.
They haven't been
think-
doing a lot of decals lately, from what I've seen.
Every single box I have opened for my Eldar, decal sheet.
I don't think I've ever seen a decal sheet for Tyranids.
They don't really have decals.
Nope. It doesn't really make any sense, anyways.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so let's talk about our game a little bit, Brad. We played Eldar versus the Tyranids. The Eldars were invading the defenseless Tyranid planet. We were just trying to get lunch before we moved on to our next destination. The Eldar didn't like it. What did you bring? I mean, not a whole list breakdown, but what was your overall theme?
My So we have to let everyone know that we don't play 2K. We play 1,500 points.
We're children.
So my list had a total of 7 units. That's because, well, a lot more than that. I had probably like, if you. Anyways, my main kind of idea of the list was as many Phoenix Lords as I could put in there, and their relative aspect before it starts becoming not viable, and the Avatar of Cain.
Yeah, the big
So
boy.
a bunch of buddies with the Avatar. That's
Yep.
basically the whole list idea.
An aspect
Yeah,
host
I mean,
kind of list.
Alright. Yes. So we did the aspect host detachment, which was basically, like I said, everything that it revolved around aspect warriors. So I just brought everything that I liked. Honestly, I like the the Phoenix Lords a lot, and the aspects. I just don't think GW likes Eldar too much, so I'm still paying for the sins of the early edition.
But that's the
and
thing is, Eldar are always paying for the sins of earlier edition.
and late edition, and just editions in general.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well-
very excited for 11th edition because nothing's going to change, and so
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because we've had this conversation before where the way that the way that 40k has leaned so heavily into match play, the adjustments and balancing of the game is based around competitive play, which I understand because it's easy to get the data. And for someone like yourself who doesn't tend to abuse the mechanics to begin with, it's hard for us to see, I don't say the rhyme or reason, but like stuff that people would consider utterly broken. Well, you don't really bring a lot of that stuff anyways. Like you're not bringing like 3 falcons with fire dragons in them. Like you're bringing like 1 falcon with fire dragons and fugue in it, and that's kind of your super big anti-tank. We'll get to that foreshadowing in a moment. But
okay.
so it also goes to say that we both kind of play the same kind of game. We tend to play like an unofficial Highlander format where each of us only really bring one of stuff. And
Yes.
what's that?
No, I'm just laughing.
Oh, but I mean it's true, isn't it?
It is.
The thing you might see 2 or 3 on our list is usually what we consider battle line stuff, like your Guardians or my Termagants. But everything else is usually we just bring one thing. Like as a Tyranid player, most Tyranid players bring three Exocrines and 2 Tyrannofexes, and I only own 1 Exocrine, and I technically have 2 Tyrannofexes, but I only ever bring 1. So, you and I play a very different game. Talking about my list a little bit, I brought the first time I ever played Subterranean Assault, because I wanted to actually have some rerolls in my life for once. Didn't help that I forgot until turn 3 that I was supposed to be able to reroll stuff. I brought the new Tyranid Prime with Lash Whip, attached to some Hormagaunts, which I was really excited after he got some much needed buffs. And I brought Swarm Lord because I don't get him out much, and I brought he had a squad of 3 Tyrant Guard with him. Just a lot of melee stuff. I think one of the big things that I didn't include is Brad has noticed that I tend to always bring an Exocrine and always bring a Tyrannofex because I need long range shooting. Well, I completely forgotten that this time. I didn't bring really any shooting, really, right? I think my Swarmlord had a little bit of shooting, and my the new Ravener, hyperadaptive Raveners that I got had some shooting, but that's about it, right?
Yeah.
So, how did you feel about this game overall?
Well, okay. So overall, I would say that I need to go to the drawing boards with my list
Mhm.
and I need to get some cheaper units onto
Yep.
the list.
We
That's
we
that's what we learned.
discussed taking out your Wraith Lord and throwing
brought-
in some more Guardians.
I was stupid and brought a Wraith Lord with no Psyker to buff him. So that's kind of on me for doing that. I realized when I put him on the field and I didn't have any of my other models with me to swap him out for. I was like, why did I bring you? Because I'm so used to clicking on him
Uh-huh.
on my list because I always bring the Farseer.
He's a cool model.
He is. He's old, but he's cool. I would love to see if they could do anything. What they could do with him in the more modern style of the Wraith Lord. But I always bring a Wraith Lord, so I just click on him by habit. He did not belong in the list. He basically did nothing and
Yeah.
then died.
He didn't die. He was still alive, but you know, he was
Oh,
gonna die.
He was going to die. Anyway, so I think the game was going fine. I just think I made a couple of deployment mistakes.
I think one of the things that was within your control is if you had changed your list to have some more Guardians instead of the Wraith Lord, you would have been able to move your War Spiders out because they were holding an objective all the way in the back. And,
Yeah, they were sitting there for a while.
Yeah.
And I could have used them to support a certain corner or make them go do an objective somewhere.
because they're really good
Yes.
anti-hordes.
Yeah, they are. They are very good at killing big old bug piles and basically anything that's not strength 8. So like they don't do a super good job of killing Terminators. They can,
Uh-huh.
but it'll take a little bit more effort to do that.
And we had two really big things that kind of finalized the game. And the first one, I'm surprised you even continued the game after it happened.
Yeah, okay. So what he was getting at is that I had one of the new models I finally put together after a year of having him was I finally put together Fugan and a bunch of Fire Dragons. And by a bunch I mean 5. I didn't do the normal Fugan and 10. So I shoved them into a Falcon. I drove them into a field. They got out of the Falcon. They said, "We're gonna kill this big bug for us." And
Now I want to lay the setting a little bit for the audience, okay? So during your turn, this Falcon rides up, 5 Fire Dragons and Big Man Fire Dragon jumps out, and they're like, "Hey, it's a Norn, it's a Norn, not assimilator, the other one, the Queen, emissary, yes." They're like, "Oh, you know what? We got a bunch of melted guns. We should be good. You know, I don't think we're gonna kill her. She's got a good invuln, and she's got a lot of wounds, but we'll probably really bloody her up." And how many saves did I need to make at the end?
you made it. You needed to make 0.
0.
Yeah, so so anyone that plays 40k should know or can look up that Fire Dragons / Fugan, because Fugan's part of the squad, get reroll to hit, to wound, and to damage against monsters. So they don't easily miss.
Yep.
But with the Norn Emissary being strength, toughness
11.
higher than a Meltagun, so I'm rooting on 5s. I should at least get 2 or 3 through with the normal guys, maybe, and then the main guy's gun should go through pretty easy. Nope, they decided that we're just gonna whiff everything. Oh, you need to hit on a 2. Oh well, we're gonna roll a bunch of 1s. Oh, we roll. Here's 1s more. Here's some 1s. Oh, Fugan misses. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. He's blinded. He gets out of that truck. He trips. He falls on his face like a dummy. Okay. My Fire Dragons are high as hell. High. They don't know what's going on either, and they are just shooting their guns like madmen. And then they get back, and then they just miss. Everything whiffs. The bullets that do hit just bounce off. And yeah,
Yeah,
they're looking like idiots.
Now, I was expecting to have to make at least 3 invuln saves. I was expecting the Norn to walk away with at least 6 or 7 damage on her. If not, you could, on a good roll, you could have killed her, right? So
Yeah.
It was just completely dumbfounded us both, where at the end of this, They just got back in the little Falcon and put their heads down and said, "Okay, not today." Um, and then the one time you did roll really well, or at least really high, or sorry, you rolled really, really low. I guess I should say. I guess never mind. I'm thinking Horse Heresy. But anyways, so then my turn comes up, and I got a bunch of stuff lined up to attack your avatar, who you pushed up really aggressively, and I don't necessarily think that was the wrong decision. But something happened where I asked you to make a leadership check because my Neurolictor had him within 12 inches. And what happened there?
What normally happens is I just fail it.
I
Don't agree with leadership. They don't understand what the concept is.
The one test that was like make or break, because here's the thing is I had a lot ready to attack that avatar with. I had a Swarm Lord was going to charge him with 3 Tyrant Guard. I had a Trigon Prime. I was going to send my Hormagaunts in with the Lash Whip Prime, and I was throwing everything I could at this thing. I was even thinking about sending Death Leaper into him because I thought I was going to take half my armor to kill him, and still have a chance that he lived through it. But the moment you failed that leadership check, it completely changed the math on everything, and down he went, right?
Yeah.
So, needless to say, it's kind of a one-sided affair. I think at least I feel that this was a definitive example of sometimes the dice just taking over, right? Because what happened to the Norn shouldn't have happened, and what happened to the Avatar really shouldn't have happened either. But I definitely did see some opportunities for the list to be improved, of course, and like you said, you had some misplay in your deployment. But I don't think that's what ended the game. I think it was just Fire Dragons doing absolutely nothing, and then the Avatar just, because I only sent like half the stuff into him that I was going to, but I was basically wounding everything on 5s at that point, 5s and 4s, and it made him so much easier to kill.
Yeah. Well, it's usually how it goes. The dice just don't like me after round 1, and everything just starts dying.
And we had a bit of a discussion too, didn't we, about the reason that we may want to look into going to 2,000 points.
Yeah, I don't remember what exactly we talked about, but I think it's something about how it affected
Well,
Eldar a good bit.
Yeah, the general thought of it is that basically you spend a good chunk of your 1,500 just covering your corners, right? And
yeah,
you have 500 extra points where there may be a bit of, for lack of a better term, like a critical mass that can't be brought up.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, with the extra 500 points, you could easily put things that could be used for covering your deployment zone, doing mission objectives and stuff like that. Secondaries, for sure.
Yeah, the idea is that it would allow you to have more room to allow your very specialized troops to do what they're specialized in.
Yeah, that as well.
Yeah, because I think that list only had like 1 Bright Lance in it, didn't it?
It had 2 on the Wayflord.
Oh yeah.
And never shot him.
Yeah, and that's that was I did something new too, because I told you I was going to try something different. Is almost my entire army was melee, and what I normally do is I bring a pretty combined arms kind of Tyranid list that has a decent amount of shooting, but then also has a fair bit of melee. And I was very pleasantly surprised on how effective they could be in melee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's kind of our thoughts on the game.
Yeah,
It was a very weird game.
it was a game. It was
yeah.
indeed a game.
Yeah, I definitely do. I agree. Yes, it was a game. Okay, so the next thing we kind of wanted to talk about a little bit, because we got about 20 minutes left. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on with 40K. What are we thinking? I know that Skal hasn't had an opportunity to play 40K in quite some time. Maybe eventually one day we'll get him back into some Space Wolves. Although probably right now, he probably want to play more Horus Heresy for that. But I don't think he can since, Brad, since you're playing Space Wolves, I think he's going to have to find another Legion, right?
Okay. Yeah. I play the Space Wolves if they're painted red and they like to drink blood.
Yeah.
Is Brad also when it comes to Malifaux playing 10 Thunders?
He is.
So he just plays all of my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You literally replaced me. So just so people are aware, I probably have not played Warhammer 40K since early 2012 before 6th edition came out.
Oh wow, that's been whoa.
You started collecting when we got into 8th, I think. You started collecting again, but I don't think you did anything with it.
Yeah, but I don't think I ever played a game, and then I don't own any of the models now. I think I sold them all or gave them all to you.
I ended up giving those models away to some people. But I mean, maybe one day we'll be able to talk you into some Horus Heresy, because I actually really like the way Horus Heresy plays, and it's kind of Marines versus Marines for the most part.
Well, let me ask, since being as a person who hasn't really played since 5th edition, what would feel the most different to me in a single game today?
Almost everything is based on a normalized die roll. For example, there's no weapon skills anymore. Most Marine stuff just hits on 3s, doesn't matter what they're fighting. Accuracy, especially if you're playing a Space Marine army, almost everything hits on 2s or 3s natively, and you usually have rerolls of some kind. The game has become hyper consistent. In some ways to the detriment of the game, because if something is supposed to do something, they make it do it not through what I would consider clean rules writing or good bell curves. They just throw rerolls and +1s to everything now. It feels like, at least. I don't know what Brad thinks about that, but that's kind of my feeling on the matter.
What on the how the rerolls work?
Oh, just he's asking like what would be the biggest difference. Well, you didn't play back in 5th edition, did you,
I
Brad?
have never played 6th edition unless it plays like Horus Heresy.
It plays a lot like Horus Heresy, yes.
Oh, okay. Then there's no templates. There's no initiative from melee. Like he said, basically it's pretty standardized. Everything is kind of like their best take on trying to balance the game, but not really trying to balance the game.
There is if you're playing match play templates, there is a tremendous amount more terrain, and not in a good way in my eyes. It's a lot of L-shaped ruins.
Well, I guess this question would be geared towards you, Chandler. Do you miss the psychic phase?
Very much so. It'd be nice to have actual psychic powers instead of I shoot gun. Or, hey Brad, how do you feel about those on a 2-up I do things abilities?
Oh man, I love them so much. They're my favorite. They don't ever fail. So like, why would I hate it?
It's GW. I still love 40K, but in a lot of ways, I feel that GW is more focused on competitive play. And well, I'm not even gonna say competitive, because it's not really competitive anymore. They're almost 100% focused on matched play now. And match play is kind of like their standardized version of it, aka a competitive play. And the game is balanced towards it. If you were to try to put a bunch of 10th edition armies onto like 6th edition terrain, whoever shoots first wins. Like, it was just because everything is so lethal, especially if it's out in the open. Like people will argue that it's not more lethal, but I mean, everything in 40k is basically walking around with guaranteed cover saves, and everything still dies really fast to everything. The amount of shots that a unit gets comparatively to where it was in 5th edition, 6th edition is just crazy. Like the equivalent to a bolter squad. You know how like you used to have like 10 gray hunters with bolt guns and they got 10 shots. Well, now those guys are gray hunter intercessors and they each get 4 shots. So you're the same amount of models are shooting 40 shots now instead of 10. They're also re-rolling to hit. Probably have a plus to wound out there somewhere from some aura. And to make things even just a little bit more, ludicrous as far as the killing field, I've been looking at the Armageddon box set, and they're showing the new land speeder, and it's like the old land speeder, like the 5th edition land speeder, was a single heavy bolter or a single multi-melta. And it was considered super good for Space Marines. You took 1 or 2 of them, sometimes even 3, but you took 1 or 2, and they would just go up along the side table, pedal to the metal, run up to a tank or a monster and fire its multi-melta. You reroll a hit because that's what Twin Link did back in the day, and it would hope for the best, And usually you didn't do anything, but sometimes you'd get some wounds off or probably even pop a tank. It was a really good harassing unit that was like 50 points. Now the modern land speeder has like a multi-melta, a missile launcher system, their bolt guns, and like a dual Gatling heavy bolter or something like on it. Like,
well, a whole armada.
Yeah, like this. A unit can't be armed with a gun anymore. It has to be covered in them. Some of the Space Marine tanks, not the Impulsor, but they're big tanks. Like the Rogel Dorn is a great example of weapon creep in 40k right now, where they just the Rogel Dorn's got like a dozen weapons on it. I'm being hyperbolic about that, but it's got a lot of weapons. But even still, I love the game.
Do you feel that the game is more balanced now, or just balanced in a different way?
If you are playing, I literally just had a conversation earlier today about this. If you are playing full matched play, then yes, the game is more balanced than it has ever been. It has less soul than it's ever been in my eyes.
Okay. You're really selling me on this game.
Yeah. Listen. It's like that.
I care more about the lore of the entire thing than I care about the mechanics of in this situation. And that's what draws me to a lot of games. So you telling me that the soul is lost in this game.
So let me give you an example.
Even though it's more balanced.
Let me give you an example. You got Lehman Russ, Return from the Dead, or Return from the Warp. Okay? He's going to get in glorious combat. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
He runs up and gets into melee, or a single guardsman charges him. It's obviously going to be a very short life for the guardsman, right?
Yes, and lore-wise.
Yeah. Who gets to attack first? Lehman Russ, the conqueror of hundreds of worlds, known as the Wolf King incarnate, or a guardsman who's his first day on the battlefield? Who gets to attack first?
Well, from the sound of it, you're going to say the guardsman, although lore-wise, that could work out, because Lehman Russ, he thinks he's invulnerable anyways.
Yeah, the guardsman gets to go first because he has fights first, because they got rid of initiatives. Okay? And a grot will a orc grot will hit Lehman Russ just as easily as he hits a guardsman, because they got rid of weapon skills.
Okay.
Yeah. If I blow up that blow up that big land raider that you had, it just disappears from the table. One of the things that I actually like, but just as it does kind of.
I'm sorry. You're saying that it no longer becomes a terrain on the board.
That's correct.
Got it.
One thing I actually like mechanically, but I do have to begrudgingly acknowledge it lowers the lore factor of the game a little bit, is when you got a bunch of guardsmen firing at a land raider. Well, you'd think a las rifle couldn't hurt a land raider, right? It's going to pounce off the armor.
Should.
Not unless if they roll a 6, it still causes a wound. So that 20-man guardsman is going to fire 40 shots at you, probably hitting on 4s, but with +1 and rerolls and stuff, and then they're going to wound you on 6s. A land raider made of almost pure titanium and ceramite plates is getting damaged by a las rifle.
It wasn't christened an ale. So you're saying that the 6 is now a natural 20?
Pretty much. Yep. And there's some lore reasons for this. You could argue that they hit a sensor or something like that, but whatever. And I say all that saying that I know it sounds very negative, but I still love the game. I still love my Tyranids.
Let me ask you then, hobby side. Is it more approachable or more demanding?
Brad, I'm going to let you take that question first.
I think we both have the same flipping opinion on that. So I play Eldar. So recently, what GW does is because they don't know how to make 40k interesting in the way that they make Age of Sigmar interesting with like cool poses and just they don't put as much like crazy detail and like stuff on the Age of Sigmar minis that I've noticed, but they still make them look very, very cool. And what they do in 40k is that they put a bunch of detail on. The models are not hard to put together. It's got a lot of detail on them, depending on what you're playing with, of course. But like, I can look at a simple squad of 70 point something Eldar units, and they have a bunch of detail that I would have to mess with. Now, I don't know if we're trying to sell him on this game because it sounds like we're doing a very bad job on trying to make him come back to 40k. The models are very good, and the hobby side can make you very inspired. I think since you said you've played Space Wolves in the past, I think you would love the new line of Space Wolf models because I think they did a very, very good job with them. I think they're very good. They didn't go overboard with the detail on non-main characters, but the main characters feel like they should have the most amount of detail because this makes sense.
Yeah, I don't recall agreeing that we're trying to sell them on the game, but
okay.
there's a lot of.
I didn't know I thought we were trying to have them try it out.
No,
if I was in his boot, I wouldn't want to try this game.
Well, I mean, I think knowing Skal, that he'd probably be more interested in getting back into Malifaux or MCP than 40k. What I would say is that for everything we are talking negatively about a game that we love, if that makes sense. The honest answer is that 40k is a wonderful game. It just has a lot of flaws in it. At least what I perceive as flaws that I would like to see corrected. Despite what some people may think, I'm not harboring for the game to go back to 5th edition or whatever. But what I would like to see is some things return to the way they used to be. I would love for narrative play to be the central focus like it used to be. But I know that's not going to happen. I'd love to see weapon skills return, where it's based on the skill of your opponent. Not going to happen, I know. I'd love to see initiatives return back. Personally, I think it's just as simple as the fights first mechanic, especially with what we're seeing so far at 11th. But again, I know that's not going to happen because GW is moving heavily towards a streamlined system. The problem is they're trying to streamline a game that is going on 40 years old. And just like with Catalyst Games Battletech, they really need to stop trying to streamline the game and maybe try to turn it into a game that's more modernized if they want to do that. I don't think they should do either. That's just me. Games like Horus Heresy and Bolt Action run just fine in my eyes. But if you're trying to make it simplistic enough for everyone to play, you're going to have to make some other changes. As far as the models are concerned, I love the models. I just have one really big problem with it, is the complete removal of posability across almost every model kit that I've seen recently, and the removal of kit bashing. One of the coolest things for Space Marines is you used to be able, you did this, Skull. You buy a box of Devastators, you bought a box of Tactical Marines, you bought a box of Vanguard Veterans, and you bought a box of Assault Marines, and then you just made a bunch of really cool looking Marines with all those pieces. You can't do that anymore because all the pieces are designed to fit in specific spots of the model and only that model. This bolter only fits Pose 3 version A of this character. So they're moving away from miniature hobby kits and moving more towards display miniatures. And I think there's a bit of detail creep too on it. And from what I've been told by anonymous people, is that is done almost 100% to encourage use of contrast paints. Because they seem to have found a really good calling in those paints. But yeah. If we were definitely trying to sell anyone on this game, we're doing a horrible job of it, Brad.
Yeah.
So what do we love about it?
Say,
go ahead.
Oh yeah, okay. I was about to say that. What we like about it. Give me a second.
He's got to think, folks.
I don't know. It's kind of hard. I'm just joking. Okay. So I would say I would say you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's almost no game that has the same feeling like 40K out there on the market at the moment.
I mean, it depends on what aspect of 40K that you're talking about.
I think 40K probably has the single deepest amount of lore. Now, some of it, when I say deepest, okay. The largest section of lore. Some of it may be as deep as a puddle, but it has the largest amount of lore out of any universe I'm aware of.
Any lore that's dedicated to this game. Because if you count like Marvel Crisis Protocol, you have the entire comic book lore to go based upon. But if you're talking about...
thinking more mechanically.
What was that, Brad?
I was thinking more... Sorry, I cut Skull off. I did not mean...
No, you're
okay.
Mean
that. I apologize. I was thinking more mechanically. I can't really think of a game that really matches the same kind of vibe that's not made by GW of 40K.
GW definitely has I'm sorry, go ahead.
It could be because of just everyone learned from GW's example and just not to do it or whatever, but like it kind of has its own kind of vibe. Like what you're kind of getting yourself into when you sit down to play a 40K game. They kind of you just know what you're doing. Like everyone, when you bring your models out to the table and you start setting up, it has its own unique kind of vibe that I don't really get with any other game that we play at the moment, besides Horus Heresy. But that's because it's made by GW and it matches their vibe of 40K, just 30K.
GW definitely has an aura attached to it as a company when it comes to the game design. There are a few exceptions to this. For example, I think Kill Team kind of changes that a little bit. Necromunda changes it, but they're two big hitters, aka Age of Sigmar and 40K, definitely feel like a very distinct kind of aura to them. What I would say is that probably has a lot to do, in my eyes at least, because of the age of the game. Like I think that if you got into BattleTech, you'd probably feel something similar. Like there's a specific type of just feeling with BattleTech. And I think that all that comes with a long standing, a long history attached to it. Like there is history in this game beyond, just a few years, like with most games.
I mean, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of one major aspect of 40K. I go, you go.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's really
Especially when you get into larger size combat.
they are one of the last games that has a strict you go, I go kind of mechanic. Most games have gone towards an alternate activation of some sort. StarCraft does. Malifaux does. Bolt Action, MCP, Conflict 47. Although Bolt Action and Conflict 47 aren't really alternate activations. They're pseudo alternate activations, so dice pool activations. Ravage Star, if that ever comes out. Yeah, can you think of a game that's it's you go, you take your entire turn? Oh, I think War Machine is still you go, I go. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure War Machine's still you go, I go.
I think that it's more. I don't know if it may be still I go, you go. I know it's a resource management system, but I don't know if it's such a different scale, in my opinion. It's a smaller scale game.
Yeah, there's a definitely smaller model count.
Because 40K always felt like it had to be a large game. And with an I go, you go system, I feel like you're sitting there, depending on who you're playing against, you're sitting there for like a half hour, 45 minutes. You get to do a little bit of rolling here and there, but you're kind of just sitting there hoping that you have something left to continue with.
Well, with the stratagem system, there is a lot more back and forth that can be achieved. It gives the other player something to do, not necessarily in a good way. I personally like the reaction system for Horus Heresy better than the stratagem system, but that's kind of just my opinion.
Okay, so here's a big question, especially when it comes to cost and accessibility for a brand new player. How hard is it to get into 40K?
Okay, so it's super easy. You just go into any game store and they're selling it. You may have to take out a few student loans or something for it, and you may be walking out with a finger or two missing, but you can pretty much get a full army. But this is an argument that'll probably be an unskippable for me one day. But there is an argument on what games value are based on how much money you have to spend for a full army. And I'm not saying that model count is what matters, and I'm not saying how much it costs to build an army is all that matters, or than how much it costs per models. I think there's a fine line between the two, because if you just wanted to play a miniature game and you wanted to spend the minimum amount of money, you just play BattleTech, right? You can get a whole army for like $25. If you're wanting for a good in between, then I think Malifaux is a really good starting point. I think Star Wars Legion is a really strong point too. I think 40K is probably the worst offer of all of them. If you're trying to go find a middle ground between $1 per model and $1 per army. But one thing I will say about 40K is, although yes, 100% it is an expensive game to play, it is a game that you can walk into almost any friendly local gaming store and be able to get a game in. It is the World of Warcraft of the miniature world.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that, Brad?
Go ahead.
So, I mean, I agree with mostly what Chandler said. I can't really add too much to it without beginning. I think as long as it's the new player themselves don't try to dive heads first into a 2,000 point army and slowly build up, I think they can manage that. But the issue becomes that the overwhelming community. It also depends on the community as well. If the community themselves wants to mostly play 2K games, then the new player is going to have to chunk over a good chunk of change to even start playing the game. So I think we're looking around, even with the discounts you get for going to a game store, maybe upwards to $400, $500 for 1,000 point army, depending on the faction that you're playing. It could go up to 600.
I think that when I last looked at the actual math of the whole thing, dollar per dollar, the average 40K army cost about $2,000 to make a 2,000 point army. It's almost $1 per dollar or dollar per point. And that's MSRP. That's not with discounts and stuff.
Yeah.
And that also depends on which army you're picking.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you're playing Custodes or Knights, it can be cheaper. But if you're playing AdMech, then God help you.
Yeah. So, they need to find a way to make, because right now the game that's easiest to get into, there's a GW army game, is Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
Like, I think that has the lowest price point. Like, I could probably buy another couple boxes of my Skaven and get pretty darn close to 2,000 points.
And objectively, at least I think it's objectively better models.
Yes, I'm just more of a fantasy guy, so that's kind of like why they get me more. But I also just think they have a lot more life to them.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
There's a lot more going on in a positive direction, whereas 40K is supposed to be a grim, dark world. And recently it feels like they've gotten a lot more towards what I call the tactical look, where everything has to look tactical instead of actually grim, dark.
Now, it's not Infinity tactical.
It's getting close to it, though. Add some skulls onto some Infinity models to put them in heroic scale, and they'd be right at home with the 40K universe. The way it's looking.
I mean, you're not wrong.
All right. Well, I think it gives a lot of people something to think about, especially if you're older players. There's a high cost if you don't have models at all. Sounds like, from what I remember before, it seems that they lost a lot of flavor for the sake of balance, quote unquote. But I think that we're hitting time.
Yeah, it is around that time, isn't it? Nice hour and 8 minutes. Does anyone have anything else to kind of conclude? What about you, Brad? Any final thoughts?
I know we talked a lot of bad things about 40K, and it is still a game that is probably the easiest to find people to play with, and it is the easiest to have people explain how to get into the hobby with as well. But, you just got to make sure you don't go overboard when it comes to 40K.
Yeah, I want to echo that too. What I would say is that we are people who love Warhammer 40K, and there are a lot of concerns that make the game harder for us to love as much as we would like to. But it still comes from a position of loving the game. As somebody who, even if tomorrow they just came out with the rules for 11th edition, I was like, no, this is not for me. I wouldn't sell my models. They'd be sitting on a shelf, and they'd be waiting for 12th edition, because the game does always swing back. And like I said, if you're looking for a game that you can get someone to play with almost always, that's 40K. As much as we love the aesthetics of Age of Sigmar, it's not very popular in our stores that we frequent. And really, I think if you add up all of the miniature gamers, all the miniature games that happen in the stores we frequent, they all don't add up to the amount of 40K games that are being played in those same stores. So there is a good reason for that. Skal, any final thoughts?
I mean, understandably, with all the negative that was stated, even from my previous time of playing, it wasn't always about the rule changes or the different models that were there. It was the friends that we made along the way. I think that there's always something to be said about any type of game. There's going to be rules that not everyone's happy with, that they make adjustments. D&D 5th edition made rules to make it easier for people to get into it, whereas there's still a huge community that loved the 3.5 edition. So it's a reason that people come back to it in general, and the fact that it's lasted this long as it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that says a lot, that just the duration the game has been, if nothing else, is a huge huge example. Okay, well, that is our episode 3. Thank you all for listening. Really appreciate it, and we really hope to bring this back to you guys on a weekly basis. I know we missed our deadline on Sunday. We will definitely be recording this Sunday, and I will be looking at getting some of my Unskippables out. I'm trying to aim for like 1 episode a week for now, but we'll see what happens. So we'd like to thank you all for listening to episode 3 of Critical Condition, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
On the next episode, we'll talk about the taste of the models.
Yep. Num num.